Welcome one, welcome all, welcome to another exciting episode of Tales of Citizens right here on the Sound Strategy Network. I am Bridger, and today we're going to be talking about the month's news in March, what's been happening, and what kind of discussions that are going on in the Star Citizen realm. But joining me, as always, I have my two co-hosts. Welcome to Gray and to Calathulu. Welcome, guys.
Good afternoon.
Gray, of course, from Legacy Fleet, along with myself, and Calathulu from Unrepentant Gaming. We're glad you got a hold of the program, however you may have found it. Tell a friend or two, won't you? We do record live at 7 on Sunday nights. If you'd like to join us, you can find that on the YouTube channel. You'll find it under Sound Strategy Network or just Bridger. So, let's move on, shall we? We have a number of things to talk about this week, but we always like to start off with a little bit of a little segment we call Life in the Verse. And this is the things both in and out of Star Citizen that have been going on with us personally, what we've been doing that we think might be worth sharing for entertainment value, or just, for shame. So, Gray, what have you been up to lately? Speaking of shame.
Well, I have been playing some Elite Dangerous. I'm actually really enjoying it right now.
Obligatory boo from the Star Citizen community. No, I kid.
No, so there's a couple of things that I have to note about this. One, the game is definitely better fleshed out than it was pre-Horizons. And I'm very eagerly awaiting multi-crew because I'm about 2 ranks off now. And I've been getting about a rank every night or two.
What are ranks? How does that work in there?
From getting an Imperial Cutter, which is the end-game largest Imperial ship in the game.
You have to earn certain ranks before you can get better ships? Is that the idea?
Only for 2 of them.
Oh, okay.
So there's an interesting mechanic that they have, which may or may not be reflected with Star Citizen's reputation eventually. I don't know. It feels very binary with just the way that they have it, but it would be very easy to implement. Basically, you do missions for sub-factions, anybody associated with the Empire, in this case. And as you do more missions, you get more reputation, and that reputation just makes the bar go up. So all of the various sub-factions contribute to the one super-faction, with the idea that as you're running around the galaxy doing all your various things, you could try to target star systems that are not actual game footage.
I just typed in game. I found the launch trailer. This is probably not the best representation to put on while you're talking about the game.
So there's something that is important to note. I'll get to that in a second. But this different star systems you go to, you can gain rep. But one of the things that I've been doing is actually in a system called Quints. And in Quints, you do basically one thing. You stop at a single space station, which is out in the boonies. This is 500 plus light years away from most of the bubble. The bubble being where most of everything is.
Yeah.
You go to Quints, you go to one station, and you pick up missions to scan rebel stations on a planet. And then you go down to a planet, and you scan one building, and it completes all 20 missions that you've stacked up in your combat log, or in your transaction log. So in one fell swoop, you could make 10 million credits. Rinse and repeat.
And this is tied into their overall meta story?
No, actually. This is an artifact of how the game works.
Yeah.
So one of the problems that Frontier has, and I do think this is a problem, but I'm actually rather enjoying it, is that they can have booms. They have various economic states for the various systems. And if a system hits a certain state, it's more likely to have a certain kind of mission. So in the case of Quints, it hit a boom state, and at the same time, it hit a civil war. So the economy is really, really good, and all the factions hate each other. So they're all specifically sending you out to scan each other's buildings, which they can't find without help on this building that's sitting out there, or on this planet that's sitting out there. And it's less than 15 minutes to do this entire 10 million credit completion. This has happened before. They've had other systems where this kind of thing happened, and they just have to wait for the next big patching cycle, and then they disable it. But between those 2 times, it's a gold rush.
So wait a minute, they disable like the Civil War segment of it, like the event that triggered, they say the event is over, or they disable that combination?
They'll do something about the system status or that combination in the system, or they'll do something to try to patch that one system. You just notice the rep bar going up in that last screen, actually. But yeah, there's really only a few ships in the game that matter for rank, and really the only ones that matter, if we're being honest, are the two biggest ones for the Federation and the one big one for the Imperials. So what I'm hoping for is to get the one really big one for the Imperials before multi-crew hits, because at that point I'll have like 6+ turreted weapons. I can have people fly for me.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Normally it's about 500 million credits to outfit one, but happily making so much money right now, that won't be a problem.
Until they patch that out.
Nah, they won't patch that out for now. I mean, I've got the money now.
That's
the
true.
money is in the bank.
Oh, fair enough.
It's just a matter of finishing up those last 2 ranks, because, oh my God, is that a grind if you didn't have something like this.
All right. Well, that's interesting. Certainly another side of the Star Citizen spectrum of similar games. Now, I don't remember if I talked about it on this show. I might have talked about it way back when I actually played this game. But there's a board game called High Frontier. And because I'm in a very space-based place right now, which I like to say, this is a game about rocket science designed by a rocket scientist. And you know that, by the way. You know that because I'm reading through the game systems, and it has things like, okay, you're going to get a thruster, and it has this much thrust, and that means you can go this far on a turn, and it's at this much mass, and that means that you need this much weight, and that lowers your thrust, blah, 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 blah. You got all the game mechanics right? The typical kind of game mechanics. But then you look in the reference book, and he's got a section that's completely unrelated to playing the game, as in this is nothing to do with actually playing the game, but it tells you what all of those things in the game represent in reality. For example, every mass point is a quadecaton, that is 40 tons or 40,000 kilograms. Fuel consumption is inversely proportional to a rocket-specific impulse in seconds, as follows. 6 equals 4.6 kilometers per second. 4 equals 10 kilometers per second at 1,000 seconds. Whoa! Thrust of one is 0.75 kilonewtons. Or 169 pounds, which is the weight of the game designer on Earth. Each additional point is double of this.
The weight of the game designer on Earth.
Yeah. Okay.
A size 1 world has a surface gravity of 0.75 millig's, and each additional step doubles this. This is, by the way, about 1/4 of the very specific things that he's got that says, reactors produce this much. He's done the math on what all of this stuff is supposed to represent to make sure it works like a simulation should.
He's got a full physics engine built in, and then he's got a game on top of it.
Yeah. So anyway, this is a very interesting game, and I don't think I've ever mentioned it before, but the reason it's back in my head is that the 3rd edition is now getting shipped to Kickstarter backers and hopefully soon to me. And this is what the map looks like, by the way. It looks very intimidating, but it's not that bad. The actual gameplay is very interesting. You're all, competing corporations, essentially, and your goal is to go out and build factories and colonies on the various bodies in the solar system. Mars, or the asteroids, or the moons of Saturn and Jupiter, or even trans-Neptunian objects way out here.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And all of these
dwarf planets and all that.
Yeah, exactly. And all these different things that you see here are things that affect how your rocket moves. For example, you got all the Lagrange points near Earth, right? And then you've got Lagrange points everywhere, but that's the points near Earth that are very
Earth
useful.
Lagrange points.
Yeah. And at any Lagrange point, any circular point on this map, you can turn for free. It's easier to change your orientation at a Lagrange point. But anytime you're moving along a line, you can keep going for free. Essentially, you're just cruising along without using any extra fuel until you get to a purple mark that marks a burn. You have to make a burn there, and that just represents correcting for being pulled off track by Jupiter or Neptune or whatever you're close to.
Other gravitational objects.
Yeah, so it's actually, once you understand how it all works, it's fairly easy to read this, and it doesn't mean it's not quite as scary as it looks. And the lander-shaped burns are what you require to get down on Mars' surface, for example, and the icons on the sites indicate what you can find there. You can find water, you can find potentially oceans underwater, underground, or whatever. So it's a very cool game. And the story that I have got from playing this is I built a rocket. I purpose-built a rocket to get all the way out to Titan. Because you can get a lot of victory points if you build a factory way out there, if you're the first one to build a factory on a V site or whatever. So I left Earth orbit, and I had a fast enough thruster to get through the Van Allen radiation belts here. If you go through it fast enough, then you don't have to worry about the radiation damaging your rocket. And I basically took this kind of this. I think it took it's the green track here. I took the green track out away here. All the way around, and I went through and I got a sort of gravity assist from Jupiter, which gives you 4 free thrust, and I put enough fuel on my rocket, and I had enough thrust to get through those radiation belts. And then you have these things, hazards, like ring crossing near Saturn, in order to get the gravity assist from Saturn, but you have to get close enough to be worried about the rings hitting you, so there's a hazard there. So a hazard means roll a die. On a 1, your rocket is destroyed, and you have to start all over again. But if you spend $4, 4 credits, whatever the currency is, you can avoid rolling the hazard because it means you've planned for that hazard ahead of time and you've taken into account, and you're not gonna, you don't have a chance of getting destroyed. So I did that. I got all the way over here. Here's Titan. I got all the way over here. I'm in the aero braking maneuver. I've run out of money for the aero braking hazard, and I could not make it. For a good chunk of this game, probably 25 minutes, I watched as my rocket went all the way over here and then crash landed on the surface of Titan. I felt very much like NASA at that moment.
Need more money.
Oh no, we switched meters and feet. Why?
Oh yeah, that's you got a little Mars lander moment going for you.
Yeah.
Your game, the physics thing, actually reminded me. There is a new Kickstarter up, or a renew of a Kickstarter up. Starfighter Incorporated. So for those of our viewers and listeners who are interested, they tried to do a Kickstarter a while back, and they only hit about 150,000 out of like 200,000 or 250,000 that they had made their goal. The guys who were doing this kept coding anyway. They all have day jobs, so they decided that they would continue to try to get a product out. It's basically round-based, physics-heavy space combat.
So a fully fledged arena commander competitor as the full game.
In effect, yes, but with scenarios as one of the main things. So guard this, or attack this, or mine this, or whatever else. But basically, they're trying to do what's that other game that was out there? Star Conflict.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They're trying to be Star Conflict without
with
being
actual physics. Yeah.
With actual physics, everything is supposed to be modeled. So it's interesting to see their pitch. I don't know.
Didn't I just tell you that I was out of money, Gray? Didn't I just tell you that? What are you doing to me?
How are you not aware?
You could just do 25. It looks like it could be an interesting arena-based game.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of having something to screw around in. But I'm not sure yet how fun it actually looks.
Fair.
This is a low-res video, by the way. They've got a link to a high-res video, so don't let the graphics
fool you,
disappoint you.
There you go.
I guess Kickstarter only allows a certain amount of data size of the video or something like that, but yeah, that looks very interesting. It's actually halfway to its goal now, which with 19 days to go means it's almost certainly going to be funded, if I remember my Kickstarter curve correctly.
Yeah, you get the initial spike, and then the end 5 days gets you the other half of your funding. Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, they are doing things that are really cool, like component-based damage. That's a big deal.
It sounds like they're doing a lot of the things that appeal to the Star Citizen community, yeah. All right, I'm going to hit remind me and find out how much money I have later.
4 days. So, but Bridger, your board game translation, was it Frontier?
High Frontier.
High Frontier, thank you. It's kind of like the Off-World Trading Company's meta game. So each little planet there would be your Off-World Trading Company instance of the game where you compete over the resources.
Yeah. Essentially.
It wasn't just Mars. Yeah.
Now, there's another component to this. Because this guy's a rocket scientist, so the actual main crux of the game is there's these patent cards that represent robonauts, thrusters, refineries, radiators, reactors, etc. Yeah, you don't send actual people up into space unless you have to. Everybody has a crew card. You can send crew, but if your robonaut fails and like some part of it is broken or whatever, then you don't have to worry about it. If your crew is stuck out in space, you're in trouble because you need to get them back, or it's like negative points if your crew dies. Unless you're the PRC faction, they're allowed to decommission their crew. People are expendable when you have a billion of them, I guess. I don't know. So anyway, the thing that's really cool about this game is it's got all these different things like robonauts and thrusters and refineries, and all of them are real, actual theoretical things that somebody has put together. These are all real. They existed before he made this game up. Now, who knows how many of them would actually work in a real science, but somebody thought them up and said, I would like to build this to make it a thing. And so to me, that is really cool, including, by the way, I think we've talked about this, Project Orion, which was, I couldn't find a picture of it. It's a thruster where you build a giant shield and you throw nuclear bombs out the back and use that to propel your rocket.
Yep. What's the worst thing that could happen?
Right.
Don't live in the fallout zone downwind from the launch site. That's the worst
well, no,
thing
you wouldn't be able to use that in low Earth orbit. But
it's a problem.
Now, here's another thing, and I found this very interesting. Let me see if I can find it. In the combat rules, there's a special exception for missiles that if you have Project Orion, you are immune to missile damage because they can just shoot a nuke out the back. And by the way, you've got a shield that can survive a nuke, so that missiles you literally don't care about.
So it sounds like you need to get that one as soon as possible.
Absolutely. And let me see if I can find it. This is great. How could you resist a game in which you can be the robot emancipator?
So it's Stellaris.
Right? How could you possibly... Yes. So you can be the robot emancipator. You have to be like... There's all these rules, like your party has to be in power back on Earth. This game gets super complex if you let it. Like there's a bunch of modules that add optional rules. But I just love the idea that you could be... I'm going to emancipate the robots, and that way whenever there's peacetime, they all vote for me. That's pretty awesome. I like it.
It sounds like Richard Nixon's head in a jar from Futurama.
It does. All right. Anyway,
shiny robot body. All right.
Anyway, that's enough for me. What about you? What have you been up to, Callie?
I have slipped. I have fallen off the wagon. I have returned to MechWarrior Online, a game I played in 2012, and have tried out again with the knowledge that MechWarrior 5 is coming out. And bear in mind, if you're not familiar with BattleTech, it is a fantastic game universe where giant robots beat the shit out of each other, and then you call it a day.
Is 5 still Piranha Games?
It is, unfortunately, still Piranha Games. But the reason why I got all excited about BattleTech in general again was the BattleTech Kickstarter a while back, which they just delayed the beta on that one because they want to have something that's actually playable and useful and fun, which, I commend them for that selection. But so I got all excited again and thought I would check out MechWarrior, and I will say it is exactly as it was, a fun game. And the community seems to be going strong and thriving. So I got into that. World of Warships, same deal. The community's going strong and thriving. They've got their British and cruisers out. They've got the Russian destroyers. And a lot of paper ships that never existed in real life because the Russian Navy from World War II was effectively non-existent. So all that said, I have given in on my thou shalt not play any more early access games, and I picked up 2. The Tavern Tycoon, which is awesome, very tongue-in-cheek, kind of fun thing, and Loot Rascals, which is, it's a roguelike / roguelite. You basically are on a planet defeating the various monsters, and as you move on, you defeat more and more powerful monsters. So it's the pure treadmill kind of thing. But
it's got space shorts.
It does have space shorts.
How can you say
and
space shorts?
They are short shorts. I'm clear on this. Those are maybe 4 or 5 inch inseams.
Well, now I think I know why the monsters are attacking you.
Well, it could be. They're really worried about the pure It's not camel toe if you're a guy. Anyway, so it's got this very Munchkin-like vibe to it, which is awesome. And then the card things like you're seeing here, like you can pick up cards that add effects to other cards.
Oh, that's interesting. The level kind of
that
grows
animation
as you.
is amazing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, there's a fog of war effect.
I love the way the level appears as you move around and explore. That's a very cool effect.
And if you keep playing it and you know go out there and keep trying to like level your character and not finish the map, bad things happen. So after a while, corpse mites appear and start chasing you down. And it just builds from there and gets worse and worse. But I love games that remind me of Munchkin, and the very tongue-in-cheek nature of this one does. So if you like roguelikes, if you're like a Binding of Isaac fan or the original Rogue,
or if you were disappointed by No Man's Sky, this looks like a better alternative as well.
I mean, this is a space sim with a game attached. No,
yes.
There's no space sim to this, but it's got this very kind of disturbing, like Invader Zim, Ren and Stimpy art style.
It does.
Which is very cartoonish and fun, and yet weird as fuck.
I was going to say it looks kind of like Adventure Time.
It's got some of that vibe to it as well, and again, the humor would be right up there.
And it's called Loot Rascals.
Loot Rascals. Huh. So it is early access. It is a lot of fun. If you're keen on that, fun, pick it up. It's I think $14, and Tavern Tycoon. If you've not heard of it, check it out. It's $10. It suffers the way a lot of Tycoon games suffer, but you are in fact basically making beer for the Middle English. So good fun. So that's my life in the verse, other than work and family. Where my son has determined a name for me. It is not Dad or Dada, as you would expect. Nope. At 18 months, my name is Up.
Up? Well, you're always above him, I guess.
Well, no, because I always pick him up. So he just walks up and says, Up. Uh-oh. And my XSplit broadcaster just kicked in.
Yeah.
Oh,
there we go.
And I'm back. And I'm gone. And I'm back.
There we are.
Okay. All right. No one breathe.
All right, I did mention, you know what? I have to mention this other game because I got it as part of the what was it? The Humble Monthly
Humble Bundle, yeah.
And this Flat Heroes is incredibly fun. I played it yesterday, and we played it for must have been 4 hours or something. It's just level after level of all you have to do is survive for X amount of time, or by killing this or something like that. And this is showing you obviously the single player gameplay, but it's incredibly fun. We played through, and then there's like a boss level at the end of some other levels. It's crazy. We played with 3 people, and it was so fun. It's also got some battle modes and things, but just trying to, as a group, survive, you'd think it would give you a better chance. In some kind of ways, it does a little bit, but in other ways, it's like, wait, no, I'm hiding on this ledge. Go away, get your own ledge, and then you both fall to your death because you're knocking into each other. And the control scheme feels so tight, and it's so weird and new, and oh man, it's just so much fun. It's in early access, but I got it for free, so I was like, whatever. Flat Heroes. Keep it in mind. It's super, super cool.
I am sold.
Neat looking.
And let me see. What else have we been playing? Kerbal Space Program. Speaking of, it's because I'm in a space-based place, you see. So I've been playing a lot of Kerbal Space Program. And man, the planes you can build when you first unlock the ability to build planes are awful. Just awful. They blew up on the runway on me like 4 times, and then I gave up, and I said, you know what? Those missions, I don't care about those anymore. I'm going to the moon with my crappy rocket. It's better than my crappy space plane. All right, anyway, all that having been said, there is one thing I wanted to mention, which is very cool. Mining is coming to Star Citizen 3.0. We didn't know that was going to be in 3.0, but that has been confirmed in multiple places now, including, I think, the most recent 10 for the Chairman. So that's pretty cool.
I am eager to see how they implement that. I really am.
It's probably not going to be in its final form.
No, of course not.
But still going to be cool.
It'll be very fun.
All right,
have you folks seen Mining in Elite, just curiously?
No, I haven't. How's that work?
So this is why I'm curious to see how Star Citizen will handle it. Mining in Elite is a bottleneck based on collector limpets, which are automated drones.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to put them in your inventory like you would cargo. So they take up cargo tonnage. And then you throw them out there, and they're little disposable bastards. So they will find anything floating in space, pick it up, and bring it to your cargo hatch and deliver it there. And then your refinery takes it from the cargo hatch and turns it into usable material. The problem with collector limpets is that they're limited by your collector limpet controllers. So you won't have very many of them out at any given point, and there could be dozens, if not hundreds, of fragments, depending on how many rocks you have been screwing with. So if you've been shooting one rock, there's probably going to be a few dozen fragments out there, and you might only have 6 collector limpets. And each of them might take a couple of seconds per fragment of rock.
Mm-hmm.
This makes for a huge time bottleneck, and I'm very curious to see how Star Citizen handles this bottleneck of getting materials from wherever you're at into the ship. I've seen talk about the tractor beams on the Orion, and there's obviously the big grinder on the front of the Orion, but then I look at the MISC Prospector, and it's got one little downward-facing beam/vacuum tube.
Okay.
And I'm wondering, are we looking at a situation where Star Citizen is going to have basically insta-vacuum for all the materials, and then they'll put the difficulty and the time commitment on the mining itself? Because we've seen the idea that like rocks could explode and we're going to have to scan for depth and that kind of thing.
Well, and that was one of the things that they said early on about mining. They didn't want it to be a game of, EVE Online's version where you have a laser beam that hits a rock. They wanted you to have to go through and do something, a game of skill about the rock, about what you do and how you do it.
I mean, it's going to be tough, man. Even if you make a fairly compelling mini game around mining, how long could you do that before you get bored of it? I mean, I get bored of Mario Run after about 20 minutes. I mean, and that's a lot more complex.
You say that, and yet at the same time, people will mine for hours and hours in EVE, a game where mining is
but they have like The Simpsons 26 seasons on in the other monitor, and that's how they keep sane.
they keep them engaged by having them watch a video. That's totally true. I mean, it'll be interesting. I'm very curious how this is going to be implemented, how it's going to look. I know it was announced. I didn't see any video about what it looks like.
No, we haven't seen any video of mining yet. And that's sort of where my interest is coming in. They're going to have to make some sort of a time sync with it, because you can't make it pure profit just running in circles, or no one will do anything else.
Well, but would the profit be better if you could fly in there in your Cutlass, blow up the ship, tractor beam out what was left of the cargo, and fly away?
Funny that you mentioned that. Okay. There's actually a frequent need for certain materials in Elite for certain engineering unlocks, and some people hate mining a lot. So what they do is they go into mining extraction zones with hatch breaker limpets that knock open the back of cargo ships, and they'll go up to these big ships and they'll blow them open and then just steal all the materials and run.
Yeah, and I remember in Elite, I used to do that with the NPCs that were out in the mining fields. Before you could mine, I'd fly in there and blow up the big ship and then, steal stuff and go away.
Yep. But I'm curious to see what the time sync ends up being with Star Citizen on mining. I think a mini game of some sort would be great, but what's the repeatability going to look like?
Yeah.
I mean, is it just going to make somebody be annoyed that they have to constantly do this thing? Like, at least in EVE, I can look at the other monitor and browse Reddit or something, but this is like, no, I have
doing this complex figure 8 with your mouse in order to be able to mine this rock.
Speaking of carpal tunnel.
Right? Oh, yeah, man, somebody going to sue CIG because they got carpal tunnel. So I had to find out. You keep talking about limpets. I'm like, what the hell is a limpet? So I started typing in to Google, what is a limpet? And I saw, what is a limp biscuit?
No, a limpet is an old fish that sounded like a submarine in World War II.
Ah, I got that reference. The amazing Mr. Limpet.
That's right.
Although, actually, Google says a limpet is an aquatic snail with a shell that is broadly conical in shape. Limpet informally refers to any gastropod whose shell has no obvious coiling, like the coiling which has been in shells of garden snails or wrinkles.
And in the vernacular here, it's a device that connects to a rock and sucks stuff out of it.
Now, that's also used in comparisons to refer to people and things that cling tightly.
The limpets actually do grab things.
So that's, I think, where it got that particular part of the definition.
Yeah.
So a limpet's like an ex-girlfriend, really.
The prospector limpets, those are great. When you're
a gold digger.
Ex-girlfriend, though.
All you have to do is aim for a rock and you shoot this thing, and it goes down there and just clings to it.
Okay.
But it makes this incredibly satisfying sound when it expires or you fire another one and that one stops being controlled. It's like a Star Wars droid getting blown up sound, like flying off the rock. And, it's great.
All right. So now we get to move on to a piece of feedback, because we got an interesting email from someone recently. You, by the way, can email us feedback@talesofshow.com if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for the show.
We actually read it.
We do. We read it all. All right, so this one, the giant wall of text, so I'm just going to break it down to the bare minimum here of the idea.
The bare necessities.
Nope, none of that. No necessities are bare here. So the person who sent us this is Justin, and Justin was basically referring to in our last episode, the episode of the first run where we talked about that story. We also sort of got off on a tangent about exploration and the Artemis again, and he kind of talked about how how is this going, and like it's kind of the same thing that we have in the past, is how is CIG going to scale exploration and salvaging to millions of people wanting to also find things. You can't have millions of people finding things all the time on the scale of a brand new galaxy or a brand new, well, not galaxy, but a brand new system, rather.
Yeah.
But he points out that there's, a lot of things that you could do, and rather than simply popping them into existence, like, oh, here's a derelict ship, and here's an asteroid with an abandoned space base on it, and here's this, here's that. What he suggests is a more organic background, which is certainly something I would not doubt CIG would do due to their commitment to essentially the immersive nature. And this is how he sees it. Quote, "An NPC merchant named Bob wakes up one day and starts his morning routine going through commodity prices around the sector to find his next profitable trade route. He notices that local munitions factory has overstock of missiles and they are getting rid of them cheap. At the same time, an increase in Vanduul activity a couple sectors over has created high demand and high prices for that item there. The Vanduul activity makes it a risky trade run, but he deems the profit worth the risk. He loads up the freelancer's cargo hold with missiles and heads out to turn a profit. Fate frowns upon his reckless behavior, and sure enough, he falls prey to the Vanduul raiding party. Now, the Vanduul are more interested in wrecking havoc than salvage, so they leave the crippled ship and bug out. The completely organic, in-universe event has now created a potential point of interest for an explorer or salvage player, or NPC, to find and recover. A player corporation hears about the conflict with the Vanduul and decides to take their constellation Aquila out there and see if they can find any wrecked ship to salvage. They come across this wreck, which is super immersive, due to the fact that it originated naturally and wasn't simply plopped in there by a developer. In addition,
feel immersed already.
All right. In addition to having valuable cargo and components for salvage, it also has a real backstory. This backstory can provide not only interesting but also profitable information." Unquote. So, I like that it's super immersive.
It's super immersive.
But I think there's one too many steps in there. I don't think every single NPC is going to wake up and start a morning routine of going through commodity prices. No. But I definitely buy an algorithm sending NPCs in their routes like we know they're going to do, and also algorithmically determining combat happened here, here's the outcome, here's the pieces that we should spawn here in this orientation.
So I think you'll find, because we know about the economy mini game concept they put together. What was it, 2 years ago now? We'll get into a whole time frame thing. We had a realization earlier about subscriber rewards, So a couple years back they put together this economy mini game, and you've got Node A, Node B, and there's a path between them. So if there is combat that happens on that path between Node A and Node B, and there is an outcome, it's easy to create this should happen. And then in the instancing concept, every instance around there has a chance, or will always, or whatever it is, have loot, not loot crates, but have pieces of ship spawn or things floating out there to discover and things like that. And maybe after a time, those events expire and you can't find them there anymore. You have to go somewhere else where there was a Vanduul raid or players attacked other players or things like that.
I mean, it could even be as minute as the system simply determines, okay, there was a big fight here, even player versus player fights, this could happen, is different pieces of your ship fall off, right? I mean, that's one of the cool things about this is they have the different damage states. Your wing could fall off, your tail falls off, whatever. But these kind of fights, in Arena Commander, you're limited to this very small area. But in this larger universe, this fight could take place over huge distances where, you start the fight and one's running away from the other and you're trying to survive, but pieces of this wreckage are spread throughout large chunks of area, and you could just find just like a gun or a missile or a piece of cargo by itself having been stranded.
Really careful about that, because people are going to exploit the crap out of any system where they can say, if I get into combat in this area, then it will start creating these things.
No. I was saying they should only create things organically. Like if something actually falls off, create that entity for somebody else to find after the combat.
I'm more commenting that people will purposely knock parts off. They'll say, well, I need X, Y, or Z kinds of materials in order to do something. Someone will find a profitable way to say, okay, let's run a Hornet or a Gladius or something out here and just start knocking pieces off the ship and get the server to spawn me a profit.
Well, no, it should spawn a damaged version of the exact thing that fell off.
So long as the person doesn't scoop it up first. I mean, where's our limitation? Where's our timer?
Right.
Yeah. Well, and you could also create, you talked about how you could model NPC on NPC combat, which again goes back to the original design from way back when. We want 10 times as many NPCs as PCs. So, they would, it may be intensive to calculate every part that could fall off a ship, but all the components of the ship.
With the NPC back end stuff that Justin was talking about, I totally see that just being loot tables. Like, here's a whole ship. Yeah. Here's like the engine part of a ship that was destroyed and the rest has already been salvaged, but you can take this. Like, there could totally be a loot table as far as that's concerned. But what Gray is talking about, you'd need to make sure that it's not exploitable when player ships are damaged. You're absolutely right.
Or even NPC ships. You want to make sure that any sort of damage that can happen that causes a spawn, any cause and effect, isn't exploitable. Yeah. That's really the trick, because someone's going to try to find a way.
Yeah. So the way you avoid that is whenever players are involved in an instance in which combat is happening, you don't spawn new exploration events from that. Gotcha. It's only NPC on NPC, where you would have loot tables that generate random stuff to look at. It would also generate missions like, hey, there has been too much combat on trade route 1150 or whatever it is. So, we're going to need a escort mission from A to B on there.
And some of those escort missions have to be completely boring and have nothing happen. Otherwise, it doesn't feel immersive.
Super immersive means that something always happens. That way you're super engaged.
Is that how that works?
Exactly.
All right.
So, I mean, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be hard. They're not going to be able to make everything epic for everybody every time. This is not World of Warcraft's loot tables. So, sorry, a little dig on Blizzard there. But
yes.
When it comes to what we can actually find, I mean, they may, a lot of the things that wouldn't even involve combat would be maybe factories are running low on certain materials, so the game itself generates new asteroids of that material type, or that contain it. So you can discover those new asteroids, and it's a way of, again, we've got this totally controlled economy. It's a way of feeding that back in. What the developers don't have is total control over how the resources get fed into the system. So if Tellurium is very expensive, and you find a Tellurium asteroid, and it's better than saying unobtainium, then, if you find the Tellurium rock and you steal it and you go and sell that, it may drive the price of Tellurium down for everybody else over time. And so suddenly, comparatively speaking, iron gets more valuable. So that asteroid spawns, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, Lumavox in the chat says players with connections, people in the same org shooting each other won't spawn salvageable items. I agree it should never spawn random salvageable items. but it should, like in EVE Online, spawn a version of the thing. Like when your ship is destroyed in EVE, there's a chance that the modules on your ship will just be destroyed, and there's a chance that they will be left over and salvageable afterwards. But in general, the concept being in those player versus player or player versus AI interactions, anything that is salvaged is by definition is going to be less than or equal to the value of the thing that was lost. You never make more money from salvaging something that started out. Like it should cost you something to salvage. You know, it should be a damaged piece that needs reparations, or maybe you come out with one good piece, one good part. You know, you come out with the shield generator from a ship that's been wrecked, right? So you lose, 100,000 credits, but the guy who salvaged it gains 10,000 because he got the good shield generator out of it. You know, there's got to be a loss there, some kind of inefficiency, or it's going to be exploitable, as Gray pointed out. Okay, so
there has to be a loss. I agree.
Then you'll be immersed.
Yeah, you got to be immersed in your losses.
Sorry, I can't get over the super immersion.
It's like, it sounds like one of those things you'd get in a parody of like a movie where you go to and there's like THX and it's like super immersion, like we're in super HD, like hyper vision. Anyway, sorry, Justin. If you too want to have us make fun of your income, your input, or just have me flail about, feedback at talesofshow.com is the email that you can send it to. But we are. Fair,
that wasn't his input. You distilled the very essence. I did distill
the very essence directly into a super immersive
exactly.
piece. But thank you very much, Justin. We do appreciate the thoughts, and I definitely agree with pretty much everything that he said there. I think that's got to be the way that they're going to do it. And if you have any questions or ideas or concepts that you'd like to hear us discuss in the show, feedback at talesofshow.com. Let's move on to spectrum analysis. Now, the first thing I want to jump into here is there has been a lot of stuff going on in the last 4 weeks, and a lot of it's pretty interesting and exciting. None of it's really worth discussing. Like, none of it made me go, oh man, what if this? What if that? Well, what if... No, a lot of it was, so this exists now, and look how cool it is. Okay, that's cool.
It's all
that's great.
Worth watching. Every one of the ATVs from the past month
definitely
been incredible. Yeah. The problem that we're encountering here is that there aren't new mechanics that are coming out that we can really sit down and say, we need to talk about this X, Y, or Z mechanic and what that means for the game. We're finally to a phase, at least for 3.0, where they can start saying, well, we're not making a new mechanic, we're just talking about implementing one that already has been relatively fleshed out.
Or that we've talked about before, exactly.
We did get to see a sneak peek of the Hull C.
Wait, which one was that in? I watched all of them, I thought.
2-3 weeks ago. It was Aaron Roberts talking about how they make ships now.
Oh, they must have just posted it for a few minutes, and I was upstairs getting a drink.
It was the end of the episode.
I think I checked off too early then. Okay.
So the Hull C, they actually finally showed off how the cargo things unfurl. And that's pretty cool.
Oh, okay.
I was always wondering, how is the ship going to compress? What does it look like? They've now shown us sort of a diagram of the internals.
Okay.
And they've shown the space that those beams will fold into, and they've shown it go in and out a little bit. So this actually was a pretty cool thing to me, at least, to see, hey, how are they going to make these cargo ships actually fold up as advertised and then fold out and carry cargo externally?
Yeah.
It's good to see that at least semi-fleshed out. I think it was white box or gray box or something.
Okay, so it's not going to be some quantum state where you can never quite tell if the cargo is superimposed on reality?
Yeah,
okay.
It looks like it'll be okay.
Okay, that's good. I had concerns, but I wasn't willing to elevate them to concern of the week until I saw a proof of concept, so that's good.
All right, I think I found it here at the end of the thing. I'll just throw it on for people to see.
Yeah, that's the one.
So, yeah, I do have a Hull B, and I'm very interested to see how these things all shake out. And I don't mean to belittle the things that are going on. I think all of the stuff that we've seen, like I just said, there's tons of stuff, like progress reports about this and that, and new models and this, and they looked really cool, and I enjoyed watching all of those ATVs. Very interesting, especially if you're into game design and art and how all these things come together. But they don't raise questions that have two possible answers in my mind. That's the thing. That's what I try to do on this show. I try to get us to have something to talk about where we can disagree on a subject, because that's what creates interesting. Even if one of us just plays devil's advocate, I love that. That looks a lot like the Firefly, does it not? Right there.
It does. You got a little
javelin with the
javelin ball, Yep. But Bridger, I think I have a way of generating controversy.
How's that?
Your mom.
Oh, no, you did not! You did
Her mom could not fit in that cargo hatch.
Oh, no. Oh, Dre, you shouldn't have gone there.
But here's what I will say, is the videos that I watched, and I crammed all of them in today because I was falling behind, but all of those ATVs, they reveal to me a studio that is so much smoother than the one that we would have seen in Wingman's hangar, for example, way back. And it's it's taken them a long time to get the policies and procedures and the team in exactly the right place, get the pipeline, get exactly how they want to build this, how they want to build that, and just crisis after crisis comes up and is solved, comes up and is solved, and now they're just cranking through the process of perfecting all of these things.
The Reclaimer, just gorgeous.
When I see all this, all I can say is clearly a scam.
Vaporware, people. This doesn't exist. Your eyeballs are being tricked by hypervision.
Don't believe your eyes.
Although, but here's the point. I mean, we talked about the timeline earlier, but this week marks them revealing the 5-year subscribers rewards. Like, people who subscribed for 5 years. 5 years. The subscriptions didn't start until like the end of the first year.
That's like $600+ if they're at the $10 a month mark. That's a lot.
Yeah, and I was a subscriber for a while, and I put my money in, and I enjoyed it, and I wanted to get things like Around the Verse out, and I realized I'd let it lapse for at least the last 12 months because it's been more than a year. So this is a milestone. This is a pre-alpha to finished product game development, and for people not in that industry or in a peripheral industry like I am, you don't understand how long it takes to actually build these things to get from, and I drop into work speak here, but a TLR, a technological, or TRL, technological readiness level. They were at the pre-alpha state, right? And now they're at not quite prototype. And that's a long process. Yep.
We're almost to not quite prototype.
And then when it's in prototype, that's going to be the open beta that I talked about with the whole PTU and everyone's doing it and going from system to system.
That'll probably be 4.0, right? That's the equivalent. 3.0 is going to be like our test bed
multi-system.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and there you go. At that point, we'll have what we're looking for. And so, as far as us playing a very early release game and what's going to look like the real thing, more or less. So they have built up an incredible amount around just making a game, and so that's why it's so amazing to see it. Even as you say, 5 years, my God, that's a long Kickstarter.
Now,
by the way, the new subscriber perks, really, really well done.
Oh, those are the ones with they get free fly the first week of every month or something, every patch.
Every patch now, subscribers will get full free fly on all flyable ships, which means people who have been complaining, hey, I want a way to pay $10 and fly everything. Well, congratulations, you've got your answer.
Okay.
But at the same time, they're making it so people who are imperators, the people who pay the extra $5 or whatever it is, extra 10, I forget what it is, will be getting a second free flyable ship every month as well. Because as it is, there's always one free fly ship for subscribers that it rotates through. They're going to be adding a second exotic ship for the higher end subscribers, so they'll have access to a scythe or Cartual or whatever the Banu ships or anything are that aren't on the rotation for the regular subscriber.
Okay.
So if you're a high-end subscriber, you'll have access to 2 free fly ships all the time that rotate every month, and you'll have access to every subscriber will have access to a full free fly for the first week of every patch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a lot of good. That's a lot of good things there.
And when they're doing things like when they're adding the Buccaneer to the game in this next patch, that's a pretty cool thing to be able to say, hey, well, new patch is coming out. I guess I can fly that now.
Yeah, I'm totally in favor of that. I know there's some people like, I don't want to get the how come they get to... Well, because they fund Around the Verse, they fund Jump Point, they fund all these amazing things. We were talking before the show. I'm fairly confident that Jump Point itself is going to be like required reading in a game design, academic class in the future, because
should be.
What has been done at CIG, taking what is essentially a ragtag group of people that just have a dream that they want to build this amazing thing, and making it into like the mean, lean machine that it is now. I mean, just watching all the progress fly by in a month. I mean, a lot of it's, kind of relatively boring stuff. We fixed this bug, we made this thing, we put, gray boxing into this, we did this, we did this, we did this. But there's so much progress from all of these different studios in the month. It's crazy. It's really cool. Speaking of that, I was watching 10 for the Chairman, and I couldn't help but notice the response about one of the questions, the very last question in the 10 for the Chairman from March 14th, Professions in Alpha 3.0, where they're asked, what kind of hazards will somebody who's into mining have to deal with? And one of the things that Chris Roberts said off the cuff, there's pirates, there's this, there's that, there's micro black holes, and then he just kept going. I'm like, whoa, slow down. Micro black holes? Chris Roberts, I thought you were all about immersion here. You can't have a micro black hole. It has to be big enough to swallow everything, including light. Nope, apparently not. There's a whole Wikipedia article about this thing. Yep. I had to immediately look it up.
Yep.
I didn't realize this is a real theoretical thing. Now, they never found a micro black hole.
And it was micro black holes that were the reason why the Large Hadron Collider was going to destroy the Earth and possibly all of existence.
I see.
Yep.
Okay.
According to the one QA guy who was fired from the project. So
there you go.
Make of that what you will, especially given the source.
Don't worry, guys. We're going. You don't need eyes.
There's that.
These are also virtual micro black holes. There's no way they could get into the real world, right?
And should you be concerned that the Large Hadron Collider has in fact destroyed the world, you can Google search it.
Oh, yes.
Has the Large Hadron Collider destroyed the world? You will find the website that will inform you if the event has occurred. And if it has, let me know.
Yeah. It's like saying, isn't there a website, is Half-Life 3 out yet.com or something? You go there, it just says no.
Yeah. But if you get a chance, view the HTML and JavaScript of has the Large Hadron Collider destroyed the world, because there is a assert 1 divided by 0. Okay. And if it's false, then it's been destroyed, and if it's true, then we're still in reality.
There you go. The rules of reality, dividing by 0 still fails. Okay, So there is one thing. There's one thing I will say that got me really excited from the past month, and that is the Megamap. Ladies and gentlemen, we can say goodbye to those awful, awful loading times. I cannot tell you how happy I am about that. One of the reasons I don't ever want to even load up Star Citizen at the moment in its current form is I know it's going to take me 30 seconds to get to the main menu, then it's going to take me 60 seconds to get into the game, then after 5 minutes of flying, it's going to take me another 60 seconds to go back to the main menu, then it's going to take another 60 seconds to go back into the game. Oh my god, it's such a drag. The computers are going at 4 gigahertz right now. Come on, man. But they listened to us, and they have vastly improved this to that loading times go from 60 seconds to like 5 seconds. It's way better. I am so excited. That's one of the biggest improvements in the recent discussions that I've seen, and I can't wait for that to be a thing all throughout the whole game.
I agree.
And of course,
And
work continues on all the other pieces of the game. The netcode is being worked on, et cetera, et cetera. There was a big kerfuffle over the tick rate being 30. I was reading a Reddit thread where people were like, well, 30 is actually really good because plenty of MMOs only use 6. And it's like, yeah, well, I don't think you can
Overwatch can tell you the pros and cons of 30 versus 60.
Yeah, I mean, 60's obviously better, but plenty of people chimed in and said, listen, yeah, 60's great if you've got 12 people that you're connected to. If you're talking about 1,200, it's way, way harder to do a 60 tick rate, and I would much rather have a 30 tick rate with like 100 people nearby than a 60 tick rate with only 50 people nearby.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Too true.
I'm with that.
Ultimately, it's what is good enough to play on.
How about we just split the difference and say 33, because that's a nice 1/3. And repeating, 33.3 repeating. Make sure you
make it an irrational number.
Yeah.
Even better.
The Buccaneers coming up pretty quick. What else is going on? The flight model slowly improving. 2.6.2 is on the PTU, if I remember correctly, and the people have been saying that's better.
Yep, it is better.
And apparently we got mentioned on This Week in Star Citizen. Somebody noticed that our schedule has been more on top of things recently. We haven't been on any hiatuses in the last 5 or 6 months, I think. Except for the Christmas one, but that's understandable.
Details. So were they, so it was fine.
Yeah. So but we happen to be listed in there now as broadcasting at 7 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Which I think isn't really fair to Pacific because ultimately Pacific's where it's at.
Whoa.
We're the chill coast.
I think Greenwich Mean Time would have something to say about all that.
Well, I mean,
they might,
bastards
except now it's called UTC.
Aha.
Heyo. So I was looking for an interesting concern of the week for this week. And I ran into one, and I'm like, well, I've got to use this because it's just so ridiculous. There was somebody that was concerned because Spectrum didn't have military time. And they're like, well, it says AM and PM, and anybody who uses computers on a regular basis should never have to see AM and PM. Am I right, guys? And there were like 7 people that were like, I never use military time. And they're like, what is military time? A 24-hour clock? And it was just a complete crapshoot in the comments about people didn't even know what this guy was talking about. But I agree. Spectrum could have a 24-hour clock, and it would not bother me. I'm sure it shouldn't be that hard. But,
I'd like to point this out. Amazon Web Services, when you try to get information about a file, the default timestamp that comes back, and this is for Amazon Web Services. The entire goddamn world runs on this now. Has AM or PM.
That's interesting. Okay.
I mean, I have to translate that because the way my work records thing is at 24-hour clocks, but that's why I know.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot better at translating 24-hour clock to 12-hour clock in my head because I realized that when I'm typing in dates and times in my software at work, if I type in 8, it defaults to AM, but if I type in 20, it defaults to 8 p.m. for me, which is nice, so that I can just type in, the date, tab, time, tab, next piece of data, tab, etc., without having to use the mouse to select AM or PM. So yeah, there's that. It's good. So, that having been said, I did find an interesting concern of the week. And this is not something that has been widely talked about, but I know that one of the things that has been said is that if you are transacting with pirates or people that are known to be outside of the law, then your reputation will suffer. And if you do it enough, you become an outlaw, essentially. So if pirates are trying to launder money through a civilian character, essentially, then that civilian alt will eventually get tainted so that it's not a legitimate way to do things. Now, the person making this thread says, listen, that's basically, you can't impose that, because if a pirate comes up to somebody and tries to ransom their craft and say, listen, you dump your cargo and give us 50,000 credits and I'll let you fly away, versus I'll blow you up and pick the bones. That's a legitimate kind of strategy as far as pirates are concerned, because they don't want to have to pick the bones of damaged cargo. They'd rather take the whole cargo and get 50,000 credits. And for the person who might die,
my God, this reminds me. So Elite Dangerous has had this problem.
Okay.
AI pirates would frequently just say, "Drop all your cargo or I'll kill you," and then they would kill you. They would just start shooting before you could drop any cargo.
You had 16 milliseconds to respond.
Yes, you had 16 seconds. You had 16 seconds to respond, or 16 milliseconds to respond. And as you were turning your ship, they decided you're done.
Yep.
Apparently, with this problem you're talking about, pirates would prefer to actually make money because they're pirates.
Mm-hmm.
They are adding with the next patch in Elite Dangerous the ability for pirates to make a specific demand for how much cargo they can carry. Say their ship can only hold 10 tons, they'll ask for 10 tons, and they'll give you a number of seconds to start doing it.
Immersion!
This is legitimate piracy. I think for
Yes.
Star Citizen, this is what we do want to see.
Legitimate piracy.
I mean, really,
Well,
if you're
it's
trying to have
legitimate,
piracy,
you can shut it all down.
if you want to have piracy in the game, you really should want the pirates to try to actively look like they're trying to make money.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to just griefing and being bastards.
Yes, exactly.
Right, so the concern this week is it's impossible to financially separate pirate characters from non-pirate characters, because if a pirate is forcing his victim to transfer money to him, then that victim loses reputation and becomes an outlaw, kind of a blah, 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 blah.
Okay-ish, but
Don't
pirates-
let them transfer money?
I mean, maybe that's
There's
just
that.
not a thing. Maybe that's why you never transfer money to a pirate. There could be a whole ad campaign, PSAs. Just say no when pirates ask for money.
No, there's
Maybe
a
you
more
can
fundamental
drop-
problem. A much more fundamental problem. How often are you, the idiot trader, flying the same goddamn route, encountering the same jackass who's demanding it, that you have to keep giving him money until it looks like you're basically the money laundering alt?
That's true. I mean,
what the hell?
to
I'd
be
also like
honest,
to know, why are they saying, like, give them money? Why aren't we talking about piracy as a thing of, like, cargo? I don't necessarily think there should be the ability to transfer credits in flight.
Oh, agreed. You'd have to have like those little credit sticks or whatever they called them from the lore, and you put that out the airlock or fly over.
But then that would be a piece of cargo.
It would be a piece of cargo, basically.
I think the better solution is for them to say, make credit transfers of things that's done at stations.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Force it to be something done at like secured terminals or pirated secured terminals.
Yeah, or as in YouTube, Ashlyn Dastile has said, item tags.
Yeah.
If you're selling something to a pirate that's a legal item, that's a legal transaction. If you're selling an illegal item, that's an illegal transaction. But if you don't sell it at all and it's taken from you,
it can
then
be tagged as stolen. Because all you have to do is say, when you drop it out the airlock, don't flag it as somebody else's cargo.
Yeah.
Right, because then they'll pick it up and it'll be flagged as your cargo, and they'll get a nice little red hand symbol next to it if it was based on
Skyrim. As a pirate, they don't care. They got their cargo. But here's my take on it. Have really good insurance on your cargo, and then tell them to go fuck themselves.
No, but that doesn't help your life, right?
I'm not saying it helps my life
it
at
would
all.
if your cargo ship also has big guns.
And as a Banu merchantman owner, I look forward to that.
Okay. I mean, what was with the Q ships, right? Q ships were the ships
Q
in World
ships
War
were the
II.
thing.
They were designed to look like cargo ships, but when the enemy came to attack them, they were heavily weaponized, and they did not carry cargo unless you count munitions.
Yep.
I want to make a Hull C that has like all fighters on the inside. Like everybody's always been like suggesting that, like make it into a carrier.
Roller.
And a Q ship could work. I think in our vernacular, it's not, in Star Citizen, it's not going to work as well because there isn't a designed Q ship. There's no Hull C module with 55 Gatling guns. But if you had a bunch of people on board and said, you know what, I can't drop it, but by all means come on board. I will give you the credits and whatnot here. So you've got that kind of option.
My space elevator's broken. You're gonna have to come in.
I actually have some illegal items, so you'll have to come in, or basically a bunch of people jump out the airlock at the pirate ships when they're doing the transaction, whatever it's going to be. Hopefully, there's some options there.
But yeah, I mean, here's what it comes down to with the original concern, which is the what if a legitimate victim is a legitimate victim? Well, you know what? The UEE could just take a stance. Listen, you never give money to pirates either. This is a situation where we don't negotiate with terrorists. We don't give money to pirates because that only encourages them to continue to pirate. So if you're caught out there, give them your cargo and try to get away, or call the police or whatever, or hire some freaking mercenaries, you jerk, while you're riding around in scary pirate space. But in that case, the UEE could still say, hey, we don't know whether you were really a victim or not. That black mark's still going on your record. Don't get caught again, you jerk. Right?
And we have a zero tolerance policy.
Right, exactly. I wouldn't
like
put that
school.
past the UEE / I guess what it would be, the advocacy, to have that rule. Like, yeah, we saw that money go from your account to the pirate account. That's a black mark on your record, regardless of whether or not you were a victim, because you should not be transferring money. And that solves that problem nicely, because as you pointed out, how often are you the victim of piracy where you have to transfer
the same
money?
Pirate. Because that was the other thing. You know, if you, to be like that,
you're right,
to lose reputation, you have to keep giving it to the same person to make it look like you're the wrong, you're an alt for some other idiot. But if you keep getting caught by the same guy over and over again, don't fly that route. And I intend to fly
He's
trade
stalking
as the
me,
majority of
you.
my. Yeah. So yeah, I have sympathy for the issue. I just don't understand how it's going to be an issue with the systems already in place, unless you keep doing the same thing over and over again and keep getting caught by the same person.
And again, like as always, unless specifically specified, we're not trying to poke fun at the person making this concern. In this case, I think it was a legitimate concern. I think it was worth addressing. I think in this case, I disagree with his assertion that it's impossible to do it. I think it's certainly possible. I think we talked about it, how it can be done now. But grats to Ryu Fitzgerald for bringing something up that we hadn't talked about before, and I hadn't really considered. So it's good to find new things to talk about. We've been going for, 3 years or something ridiculous now? And
apparently 5.
Well, we didn't start the podcast in 2012.
No, we waited about a year, 2013, somewhere around
I think it was somewhere around 2013. So, yeah, anyway. So it's good to come up with something new to talk about. So thank you, Ryu. So with that, I think that's it from me, guys. Anything else you wanted to add? No, that is one more thing. I thought it would be interesting if one of the professions was like forensic accountant. Because how are you as CIG going to police all this stuff? So you have somebody, you just give them a random data set. You randomize the name. You don't give them the actual name. This is player ID 675/692-G, and there's no way for you to reverse engineer who that person is. But then you analyze their transactions and you flag things that look suspicious. Oh, he's trading with this ID.
For abuse or anything.
No, it's all anonymous. You can't abuse it if it's anonymous, right?
Yeah.
I think it's actually easier to abuse if it's anonymous.
You mean you just troll people like, oh, flag pirate?
Yeah. See, but again, if it's at that point when other people look at it and they send it out to 300 people, and one person says pirate to everybody, and 10 of them actually do legitimate work, it's like there's an AI construct based on this system, crowd intellect.
Well, there's also the entire idea of the issue council, or not issue council.
The tribunal?
Tribunal.
That's what I was thinking as well.
Yeah. But so there is, and it's being done with financial markets now for buying stocks, but they hand out to industry experts and then just your neighbor or the guy who signs up to be a consultant. They will say, hey, is this stock a good pick or a bad pick? And they just go through that with all these different stocks. And at the end of it, the crowdsourced one, including random jackasses, is better than any individual trader and better than a pool of just the traders as well, which to me was really interesting. So you could actually do your forensic thing here, asking the community to do it in exchange for in-game currency or whatever.
A small salary.
And this is small salary. And,
what are you going to do when you get home? Oh, I'm going to do some forensic accounting. Don't you do that as your day job? Yeah, but I like to relax. Yeah. So I'm going to do forensic space accounting.
It may actually be better than just having someone who's hired into the office to do it.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Yeah.
All right. I think that about covers it for this week, guys. When's the next show here? It's going to be April 30th.
Yes, indeed.
So that's the last Sunday in each month. So if you are interested in catching the next show, check us out there. 7 p.m. It's Eastern Daylight Time now. I know that Europe has also switched over, which is great. They've joined us in the light, so to speak. And I'm just saying this while I stall to look for my outro music because that's important to get. There we go. All right, so we've covered a bit today, and we'll have a bit of an after show here in a second, but I'm going to go play some Kerbal Space Program tonight, I think. And looking forward to another month. Hopefully, maybe next month we'll get a date on 3.0. What do you guys think? What do we get next month?
That would be nice, but I have learned to stop holding out hope for the due dates.
Well, certainly don't hold your breath.
Yeah,
that would be pretty homicidal.
Whenever they list one, someone punches them directly in the dick.
That's true.
Clear on that. Yeah.
Yeah. The dick punching machine would be turned right on.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, they have to post the date eventually, right? I'm thinking, late April, they might say, oh, it's coming out in, May 4th or something like that.
They will post it the day before it goes live. That's the only way to be sure.
No, you're right. My point is, we'll hear about it going to the PTU/Evocati is, I think, what we'll see next month.
Oh, true. No doubt the Goon Swarm will tell us because of all their links to the Evocati.
Oh, jeez, yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next month, April 30th, 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time.
Until then.
Such a beautiful song. I've actually, I was very impressed in my Kerbal Space Program. I managed to go up and rescue Lefty Kerman from, he was somehow stranded in space at like 75,000 meters in a cockpit for a space plane. I don't even have space planes that can take off the damn runway. How did he get up there?
Slingshot.
I wouldn't be surprised. I was actually showing Kerbal Space Program to my friend, and I was just flying over the planet. He's like, does anybody else live on this planet? Is it literally just a space agency on an empty planet? And I'm like, yep, that's how it works. Where do they get the money? Who are they selling the contracts to? Oh, it's interdimensional, see?
Where do all of them come from?
Yeah. I think they come from another dimension. They're just using this universe to test things.
They've mastered interdimensional travel, but man, if getting to space isn't hard.
Exactly. It's very difficult. This is how they learn how to get to space. They use this universe and the expendable Kerbals. I do like all the names in there.
Aren't all Kerbals expendable, though, when you get down to it?
No.
I was about to say the same thing.
It ruins my reputation.
Your reputation in Kerbal Space Program? I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, in the career mode, you have 3 resources you have to keep track of. You got your science, you got your reputation, you got your money. You need money in order to build spaceships to accomplish things. You need to get science by performing science in different places. And then that unlocks new pieces of gear that you can use to get further and do more science.
Is there like a science meter? Is that a thing?
No, but I mean, when you perform a scientific test, there's like 7 or 8 different ones you can do. You can do like a crew report, which is the simplest one. You can observe the mystery goo containment unit. You can check the temperature. You can check the pressure. You can check the special science box that you can strap onto your thing, and each of those can be done multiple times in the same place, but they get diminishing returns until they give you nothing. And then you can do them in a different biome on the planet to get new results, like if you do it in the desert, or you do it in the grasslands, you do it in the mountains, you do it in the Arctic. There's like 8 biomes on Kerbin, and then there's different biomes on all the other planets in the solar system too. And then if you do it above the planet in low atmosphere, then in high atmosphere, then in low orbit, then in high orbit. So if you do all those different things in all those different places, that nets you different, more and more science. And then you spend that science to progress through a tech tree. You start with only the very most basic rockets you can possibly make, And then you eventually unlock space planes, you unlock staging, you unlock bigger rockets, you unlock more efficient rockets, bigger fuel containment units, etc., etc. And that allows you to get further. Like, I just unlocked enough stuff that I was able to go orbit the moon and come back and survive. And then I unlocked a docking module, which allowed me to save Lefty. And then, I
noticed that you tacked on there and survive.
Yes. That's important. I almost didn't. I was coming in so fast. I didn't have enough fuel to properly slow down, so I had to use the atmosphere to brake. I almost lost the science module because my heat shield was very close to failing, but I made it back okay.
Nice.
All
right. So that's
wasn't
fun.
That fancy.
I'm having a lot of fun with that because I played around with it a long time ago, but the tutorial system has been way, way improved since the last time I played. It really walks you through everything very well, in my opinion. Oh, have you guys seen Logan yet?
Not yet. I keep hearing good things.
Man, it's good. It's also super brutal. Like, it just keeps hitting you right in the gut. It felt like an entire season of Game of Thrones all shoved together into one movie.
Oh man.
Not in a bad way, but that's the kind of gut punches you're going to get over and over again in Logan. But in the end, it's
Logan
not
is Wolverine, right?
Yes, that's the third in the Wolverine trilogy officially, I guess you could say. But it's also
it's supposed
completely
to be the last.
Yes, it's the last. It's supposed to be the last movie in which Hugh Jackman is playing Wolverine and Captain Picard, Patrick Stewart, is playing Professor X. So it's a hell of a movie for them to go out on. I mean, literally, Hugh Jackman, there have been like 2 good X-Men movies, and Hugh Jackman did not star in either of them. I think he was in one of them, and he told the young, like in First Class, he told him to, F off or whatever. Like, that's all he did in that good movie. Like, he's been badass, awesome Wolverine in some pretty bad movies, or just okay movies, but he's finally been awesome. He's been Wolverine now in a really, really good movie overall.
There was an interesting comment I read. We've got a local independent paper here that's pretty good. And they made a comment that this wasn't a good superhero movie. It was a good movie.
Yes.
Definitely.
Well,
I thought was a glowing recommendation from a newspaper that generally hates action flicks.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I saw an interesting suggestion that the Fast and Furious movies are now basically superhero movies. They really are.
They really are.
At this point, that cast of characters is essentially a group of superheroes. They do inhuman things with cars.
And they don't die.
And they never die. They're unkillable, except for Paul Walker. Rip. Too soon?
A little bit.
It might be too soon. But I thought... I mean, I have been enamored with that series since about 5. Like, my friend said, come see Fast and Furious 5 with us. And I'm like, come on. The stupid car movie. And they're like, no, trust me on this one. And I went to see it, and I was like, oh, man, this is so self-aware. It's amazing. It's amazing how self-aware it is. And they just kept upping the ante until they're driving, like, a sports car between 2 giant buildings in
As you do.
Yeah, of course, as you do. In what is it, Kumar or damn it,
Kuala Lumpur?
No, in the Middle East, where the Burj Khalifa is located.
Oman? No, wait, no, I'm an idiot. It's the UAE.
Yeah, United Arab Emirates, maybe. It's one of those super rich Arabian countries with giant buildings.
That would be in Dubai.
Which is what I said. Yeah.
That's the one I was thinking of. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Yes, Dubai. They're jumping the car between 2 skyscrapers from like floor 110 to floor 100, and it's like the most ridiculously awesome stunt you've ever seen. And a lot of the stuff they do seems to have a lot of practical effects. Not that one. But
not even a little bit.
I am so excited for Fate of the Furious. I might be more excited for that than I am for almost any movie other than Guardians of the Galaxy that's coming out soon.
Okay. But I'm looking forward to Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah.
Have you guys seen the Deadpool trailer? The second Deadpool 2 trailer?
No, but
it's actually just a teaser. We saw it.
I've seen the teaser.
The one where he's in the phone booth.
Yeah.
Have you seen the one with Thor on summer vacation?
Wait, maybe. Yes, it's like a small set of mini episodes, right, or something like that.
It is. It's and so like he puts Mjolnir to bed. He puts a little blanket on it. It was the weirdest little.
I love when actors are that, sort of in on the joke of their own character, right? They get it.
Yeah.
Unlike Zack Snyder. Sucks. No, I kid. I love 300, and if he keeps making movies that follow somebody else's script, he'll probably do okay. That having been said, I did not hate the newest trailer for Justice League.
Oh.
I don't know.
There was more levity in that trailer than there was in the entirety of Dawn of Justice and Batman and Man of Steel combined. Yeah, there's a few little moments that make you chuckle, and it's like maybe they're finally learning that having a dark and gritty universe doesn't mean you don't have comedic relief, right?
Yeah,
like Marvel has a lot of heavy stuff going on in it. A lot of it, like, I mean, if you I mean, they say, oh, Marvel's not heavy. It's very light and happy. It's like, no, that's because the characters take everything and treat it that way to deal with the stress of the situation. The truth is,
humor.
In Captain America 2, exactly, you got gallows humor going on in there. But in Captain America 2, you're dealing with a situation where your government's being taken over by an authoritarian dictator, and that hits really close to home. It's some scary shit. And then when Samuel L. Jackson dies, well, that's dark in and of itself.
He remains the only celebrity that I've actually seen in person.
Oh yeah?
Yep. I missed my flight in LA coming back from CitizenCon, and there in the airport, coming down the escalator as I was waiting in the line, was Samuel L. Jackson.
He wasn't surrounded by guards keeping people at bay?
No, just a couple of personal secretaries, then somebody screamed "I love you" from one of the other lines.
Oh Jesus!
Did you guys? No, go ahead.
As someone in LA, well, close to LA, I'm south of there, and hearing about that, like I don't understand celebrity worship. I could not fathom screaming "I love you" at anyone who I don't actually fucking know and love. And it blows me away that it happens on it. But when you go up to like Los Angeles, you see it a lot, especially in the airports and things like that.
Yeah.
My favorite one is when people go online and chats. Oh, where are you from? Oh, Southern California. Oh, you near LA? Yeah. Do you know X and X celebrity? Oh yeah, we hang out on weekends. Of course not, you idiot. There are like 11 million people around here.
What answer did you expect?
I know. Yeah. Oh, we hang out. No, I was her second boyfriend. She doesn't talk about that, but she lost her virginity to me. I mean, don't know her. We never will. Yeah, that kind of thing. Sorry. Go on to what you're
Taylor
talking
Swift
about.
and we are BFFs. What are you talking about?
Oh, yeah, no, that whole song about leaving and hating her ex-boyfriend, it's about me.
Yeah, exactly. So wait a minute. Let me ask you guys this question: Did you ever see the I guess you could call it kind of a crappy movie, the movie Deep Blue Sea?
I heard about Deep Blue Sea, and I should never see it. But I've never seen Deep Blue Sea.
I definitely never saw that.
This is the movie. I think it must have been 2002 or 3 or 4, somewhere in that range. It's like a floating, partially submerged science laboratory where they're experimenting with gene splicing sharks to make super giant sharks they could use maybe for military applications. Of course, it's the military's evil, blah 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 blah. But things go badly, and a shark gets out of his containment unit and starts destroying the thing, and it starts sinking. Right, and the few scientists that are left are like, we got to get to the surface, but all the things are blocked, and the shark is out there. And then they're panicking, and Samuel L. Jackson just says, "Enough!" And he gives them this giant speech, and it's passionate, and he's like, "We're going to get out of here. Here's the plan. We're going to do this, and you're going to stay calm, and that's how we're going to get out of this place." And then the shark just comes up and eats him in the middle of his glorious moment. And it was one of the best Samuel L. Jackson moments I've ever seen. Let me see. I think I found it here.
And we're gonna find a way to get out of here. First, we're gonna seal off this
The movie may not have been great, but that moment was
scene.
great.
I love
I love
the acting on the faces of the people there.
Yeah. I would have been like
Goodness.
backpedaling as far away from the hole as possible. I wouldn't just be staring sadly
Yes.
myself. But maybe
So
I'm not as good as these guys. But yeah, that moment, that's great.
Awesome.
Of all the great speeches in movies, that one was cut short.
Yep. So that will teach you never to do Alzheimer's research on sharks.
Oh, that's what it was. It was
That's what it was.
Alzheimer's
It was an
research.
Alzheimer's
but they
lab.
needed to make the shark's brain bigger.
Yep.
And so they
In fact,
bred a
I
giant
know-
shark.
I now recall why I knew about that. NPR had a little short on Alzheimer's research with mice. So do you know how Alzheimer's works at all?
I don't
Okay, I can
mechanically
give you
know.
Protein buildup, right?
Okay. 6-second synopsis. Your neurons get plaque. The plaque keeps them from firing, and your memory and your ability to cognate go to hell. All right. So they took this little tiny drill, and they drilled a hole into the skull of mice who had been bred to have Alzheimer's. And then they took a blue light, and they fired it in there at 60 hertz or 40 hertz. And the plaque on the neurons, after a 1-hour session, was reduced by 50%.
Nice.
So then, someone in the research lab had the idea, we don't really need to drill a hole because the skull has holes already. So they made a blue strip of LEDs and have someone basically sit in a room, or mice sit in the room and fire at 40 hertz this blue light, and the same effect. The plaque basically was reduced by 50% when they did the
Because it just went
autopsy.
through their eyes?
Yep.
Wow.
And
Interesting.
so it gets more interesting.
So people
Mice,
who go to raves don't get Alzheimer's.
or will get treated for Alzheimer's. Now, the part that was really cool was mice who've been trained to run a maze before they had developed Alzheimer's could run that maze again.
Huh.
Yeah, so the memories were still there, and with the treatment had been unlocked again.
Wow.
Interesting.
And because it's so non-invasive, they're going to bypass primate studies to go straight to human studies.
That's cool.
Or at least they're trying to. They're looking for a waiver right now from the FDA.
That
So,
is super
assuming that
exciting.
Dorito
'Cause that's an
Mussolini
awful disease.
It is.
Yeah,
it is. And it's
that's
really
terrible.
exciting. And assuming that Dorito Mussolini doesn't defund the entirety of the FDA, we...
Oh, you're my favorite.
Sorry, I've been waiting to use that, and I figure that the after show, or people who can be pissed off, but understand that I'm kidding, and also have opinions that may not match theirs, which I'm okay with. And if you don't, well, then you are also Dorito Mussolini.
Right. The whole point of free expression in the First Amendment is essentially...
No, asshole. That's entirely incorrect. The point of the First Amendment is that I can have an opinion and no one else
only
can
an
have the
asshole.
opinion.
You got super meta right there.
That was the point, yes.
Yeah. All right.
I have an
Anyway.
opinion. You have to listen. That's the First Amendment.
To what I say.
Without consequences.
Exactly. Don't boycott me.
It's very important that we have political discussion. Oh, look, what are the most popular car colors? What kind of cat are you? I got to take this quiz real quick. I'll be right back. We can discuss really important politics later. I'm busy.
No.
What kind
If it's
of cat
politics,
are you,
it's not
Bridger?
important.
Now
I'm a
curious.
calico.
I was about to say calico. Literally, I was starting to say it.
I don't know any other kinds of cat. I have a black and white cat. Is that a cat kind? I don't know.
I'm an
Is it
American
cow
long
cat?
hair. Thank you.
I have a cow cat. I do.
Cow cat.
She's actually a globe cat because she's kind of round. We
I
call
thought you
her
were making a
globe
yoga
cat.
reference with
Oh,
the cat
man.
pose, cow pose.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, but apparently I was in the wrong.
Man, I actually playing Grand Theft Auto 5.
Oh no.
Kind
City?
of. I didn't want to play it anymore. It's really depressing because
Wait, a game in which you haul people from their cars and beat them on the street is depressing?
well,
Man,
no, the fact that all those people are so awful is depressing.
Man, it's
Oh.
almost like you're part of the criminal underbelly of
No.
major city.
The way that I've
Yeah.
described this is because I never really paid attention to Grand Theft Auto 5 before. So when I
storyline.
finally got it, I actually started playing through it. And every single person you meet is awful is an awful human being for some reason or another. Every single person on the radio is like you take the most extreme version of some annoying feature, be it like a super placating politician or a super annoying celebrity who really wants you to like him, or somebody else who's like stalks celebrities and he's totally shameless about it. You can take the slices of the worst, most extreme personality types and make every single person that you meet in the game one of those people. In reality, those people are only
life in LA.
Okay, well that might be true then, because where I live, it's only about 20% of the population are that horrible as far as human beings go. But man, it was depressing to be in that world for very long. It made me want to rage and run them over, and I did, and it was not
and
bad.
You had your catharsis, and there you go. Yeah. But you have to bear in mind, my experience with Grand Theft Auto was only the first one, the top-down view, where if you ran over 15 Hare Krishnas, it would say you shot your load. So, I mean, what you're describing is basically just grimdark, only not in sci-fi.
Yeah.
And it seems a little more
It's a
realistic.
Dystopian future where all humanity is completely
dystopian
superficial.
Presence, where all of humanity is.
Well.
We are living in the game
Bioshock?
Bioshock. We are living in modern Bioshock.
Ah.
Soon we'll have enclaves, like gated communities, in which the rich and wealthy will retreat.
Those exist.
Wow. I know.
Apparently in North America, white is the most common car color. 25%, 1 out of 4 cars are white. 21%, 1 out of 5 are black.
I believe that.
And then gray, then
of the
silver, then
demographics.
red, then blue, and then a bunch of other colors. But
I mean, my wife and I both have black Volkswagens, so...
I feel like I've seen a lot more blue than just 1 in 12, but
my car is blue.
Mine is 2.
And
my wife's is blue.
That's 2 and 3. So right there, we can honestly say whatever you've looked at was clearly wrong. Our
data
reasoning right here, our 2 data points completely contradicted and are therefore more accurate. Also, global warming isn't real because it is cold outside.
Yeah, it's chilly. Seriously.
My brain.
Bridger tried to pull us away from politics, and
I did.
The Godfather, I pulled him back in.
It was an attempt. The other game I'm excited about. I don't know if you played War Game, right, Callie?
Yes.
You were a fan of War Game? Have you seen Steel Division?
I have not.
They are Eugen is making a new game in the War Game style. Based in World War II. So they're going back to World War II. It's called Steel Division, and it's being published by Paradox.
Wait. I have seen that, because Paradox released some stuff on it, and I thought it's like Hearts of Iron again.
No, it's not. It's more like War Game.
Okay.
So it's an RTS instead of and it's tactical war game level rather than high level stuff. So I'm very excited about that. They're doing World War Wednesdays now, where they do Hearts of Iron for an hour and then they do Steel Division for an hour. They did the first one last week. So if you check their Twitch channel, you can see about an hour of gameplay.
I know what I mistook this for. I thought this was... You remember Close Combat by Microsoft?
Yes.
Way. I thought this was a new version of that, which it looks like it might actually be a spiritual successor. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it, because I never got into any of the war game series, because I've never been excited by Cold War or modern combat. I'm stuck in World War II. I don't care. I like it.
Yeah. Well, World War II was the last time that you didn't have the threat of global annihilation.
That's true. What was the game that had a similar scope but did let you drop nukes? I'm trying to remember. It was a Cold War
Civilization?
game. No. Similar game, like an RTS that gave you points that you used to buy things.
Okay.
I think it was a Vivendi game.
Oh, you got me on that one then.
Damn, I can't remember the name of it. But you could drop nukes on the places in it.
There was what's that World War II board game? Axis and Allies. Axis and
I
Allies.
love that game.
And they had a great little line in there. It was in one of the rule books, and it said, to simulate the usage of tactical nukes, soak the map in lighter fluid and apply a match.
Yep, pretty much.
That's interesting. That must have been second edition, the Milton Bradley one.
I mean, Steve Jackson Games published these weird rules things, and that was one of the ones they published that made me laugh my ass off. Back when Steve Jackson was still, are they still a going concern?
Yeah, Steve Jackson Games is still huge. Munchkin is still selling like crazy.
Right. I was thinking more about their GURPS stuff, but yeah Steve Jackson. Yeah, they had like this like monthly publication they would do, and at the back of it was just weird rules and like comics about those weird rules. And I ended up getting like a compilation of all of those put together, and would go through and like, you know, one where a flatbed rail car in Railroad Tycoon, the board game, could hold as many cattle as a closed car.
Oh, I have to bring this up. I forgot about this. Take a look at this. If you wanted to make a game based on Jurassic Park, that would be an interesting game where each person is trying to, you know, run their own park, and they have to decide what research to do and how much money to put into your fences and things like that.
I'm maxing the fence budget out. Let's be clear. I've seen the movies. Better than this.
But
also, we're not doing any genetic experimentation.
Would such a game,
terrible, by the way,
match up with this visual style?
No. What? Not even a little bit.
For those of you out there, search for Dinosaur Island board game. The box cover is insane.
Or you know what? I did it in Steam because I didn't realize that you were looking at a board game. Jurassic Island: The Dinosaur Zoo. Hugely negative reviews, by the way, but it appears to be exactly what you've been describing. It's Zoo Tycoon for dinosaurs.
Yeah. Wow. My friend is all in on this, by the way. Oh, and hang on.
Yeah.
There's a Kickstarter. I'm pulling it up now.
Oh, no.
Called Laser Riders. And by the way, that is spelling Riders, Ryderz.
Damn straight.
And it is so 80s. It's incredible. My friend is a huge fan of everything 80s.
I hated the 80s when I lived it, and I hate it today. So this is fantastic.
So this is Laser Riders. It's a totally rad tabletop racing game on Kickstarter.
No.
But here's the thing. The game comes in what looks like a VHS box set.
Oh, yeah. It really does.
You pull those out, and they become trays that hold all the components.
A high-speed, high-energy, trackless racing game with light push, your luck, area denial, and strategy elements. Ride the laser.
I assume it's supposed to be similar to the
Star Wars?
Disney's what you call it?
They have $55,000 of 30,000 needed. It's going to be a thing.
Yeah,
this is going to be a thing.
That's terrifying.
Why can't I remember with the Bruce Broxleitner Tron? I assume it's based on the concept of Tron with
Tron
the light cars in Tron.
Yeah,
or light bikes rather. And you got to like try to force your opponent to ride into a wall or something.
The cover art looks so Atari 2600.
It does. I believe that's the point.
Old games from the Atari. That's impressive. Wow.
You can get the Galactic Wave Rider, Laser Shark, which is literally just a hammerhead shark with glowing green eyes.
Yep.
Super Sheriff or Phantom Cosmonaut.
All right.
Oh my.
Wow.
I mean, that is very Cold War USSR.
Oh, and here's Captain Cosmic, the promo character, and the Visionary. Oh.
Captain Cosmic looks like a...
Was the Visionary wearing a maid skirt?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, of course.
Captain Cosmos resembles Duke Nukem with a mullet.
He does. He does.
Steel.
Laser Riders.
Have you guys seen that, by the way? That video from years back?
Oh, the Ventrilo harassment?
With the Duke Nukem balls of steel. Oh,
Ventrilo harassment Duke Nukem is fantastic. It is a classic. Oh,
I had someone playing that at me through the MechWarrior Online, like a voice. Like every time I would say something, they would hit something that was like almost but not quite. And I said, "You must love your Duke Nukem." Oh yeah. And it's like, all right, well, I'm gonna mute you, and we'll get on with our lives. Here we go.
So speaking of space stuff, I don't know if anybody out there is looking for a good game recommendation, but Terraforming Mars is a fantastic board game.
Okay.
it is getting a lot of positive press on the Board Game Geek.
See,
now,
this
it's
is
actually
why I need real friends.
It's ranked 15 in the world right now of all board games out there.
Okay.
And number 9 just the
That's a pretty
strategy.
impressive statistic, actually.
Yeah. It just got released last year, but it got very, very good. Basically, you're a bunch of different conglomerates trying to terraform Mars, and every time you get one of the 3 pieces of key habitability scores closer to habitation, you get points. And you'll get points for other cards that you play, but like you need to increase the amount of oxygen up the track to 14%. You need to increase the temperature to +8 Celsius, and you need to put out at least 9 oceans worth of hydrology.
Okay.
But it's basically a card game with some area control mechanics on the board where you're colonizing things, and it's really well done. It's a lot
area
of
control. So how does that fly?
So the core mechanics are you draw 4 cards at the beginning of every turn. You decide to keep a certain number of them by buying those cards, because they all have a cost in the top left corner each card you keep in your hand costs like 3, but then when you want to play it, you have to pay the cost in the top left corner. So if you want to pay to keep it in your hand, you get versatility, but you could also get exactly the ones you want and not have the versatility. So then you take turns playing cards, and you put stuff on the board, like you'll put out colonies, and you put out forests, and you put out oceans. And when you put stuff on the board, if there's an icon there, you get those things. So you'll get bonus vegetation if you put it anywhere where there's these green markers. You get bonus resources like minerals and stuff. If you put it on any of these areas with the minerals, you get bonus cards, all kinds of other stuff. And when you put out forests and cities, you put your color cube on them, and you get bonus points for putting your cities with forests around them or things like that. And so there's some area control mechanics there on which spaces you want to have control on the board.
I see.
But that's kind of how it works out. It's a very, very fun game. I highly recommend it. It's not super complicated. You just have this player board in front of you, which tracks your resources. You get your money, your iron, and your titanium. And then you've got vegetation, you've got energy, and you've got heat. So your energy can be spent on various cards, and then if you have any energy left over, it's converted to heat. Once you get 8 heat, you get to increase the temperature of the planet, and you get a point for that. If you get 8 vegetation, you put down a forest, you get a point for that. It's not a super complicated game, but it's fun to play, man. I like it.
Can I create Martian global warming?
If you get to maybe you know what? That's an expansion.
Too much CO2. We take the atmosphere.
The other thing that I played recently is Vast. Vast is a really unique game. I haven't played anything like it. Every player plays a completely different game from everyone else. Actually, here's a helpful chart to show you how everybody interacts.
And we're done.
But
interesting.
Not so helpful. No. So each of the characters plays completely differently than all the other characters. In a sense, it's a dungeon delving game. You have the knight who is trying to slay the dragon inside the cave. You have the dragon who's simply trying to wake up from their slumber, survive, and get to the exit. And then you have the goblins who are trying to kill the knight. And then you have the cave, which is trying to kill everyone by collapsing on them. So everybody plays completely differently.
Let me get through. Someone is playing the cave?
Yes, somebody's playing the cave.
I'm out.
It's too much. Everybody gets this special player board, and they play a completely different game, but they're interacting with everybody else on the board. So the dragon has these special cards that they play. The knight does a roll and move mechanic. The goblins have these special things that they commit their war cards to. And then the cave has these special tokens. They lay out cave pieces and try to put traps down for people. And then the thief is cursed with undeath. Like he gets resurrected all the time. And all the other characters, if they kill the thief, they get bonus goodies for some reason. And the thief is just trying to get stuff to get out to break the curse. So anyway, it's a really unique game. I like it.
Interesting.
What's this? What did you say? Oh. Well then.
I love
those hands are not huge anyway.
No, I love it.
God.
Anyway, post show's now about longer than the real show, so we should probably end it here.
Probably.
Yeah, call it a night.
I need to go eat, otherwise I shall collapse, and I blame you.
All right, thanks for watching, guys. We will see you next month.
Thanks, everybody. Have fun.